phone. Hi.
Hey guys, is that aggressive enough for everybody? What's going on? Are you guys all, is this press stuff?
This is press.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Where are you from? Where are you guys
We're
from?
canceled.
No, I want to know where everybody's from. Where are you?
We're Fandomania.com.
Yeah.
Fandomania.
And
The Daily Quark.
the Daily.
Mixed Radio Network.
Okay.
Transmissions from Atlantis.
Oh, cool.
It's Variety Radio Online.
Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome. Nice to meet you.
What about you back there in the hat? You sir. Where are you from?
Canada.
From Boston.
Hey.
Look at that face.
He's so cute.
I know.
All right.
What do you guys want to talk about?
They're just looking at their phones.
She's very rude like that.
What do you want to talk
Hi, Jack.
about?
Do you want us
Me?
to?
You start.
Okay, well, I guess certainly thank you all for hanging out with us today and
Sure.
saying hi. I don't know, pretty basic. What have you guys all been up to?
Go ahead.
All right, I'll start. Since the cancellation of Warehouse 13, which I thought, I was preparing myself for the end of the show, or at least trying to. I knew it was going to be, it really was a part of me, and so it's been hard, frankly, to be honest. I've spent the last 6 months auditioning a lot and playing a lot of Call of Duty online in my underwear in the back room and drinking Diet Coke. Like my wife will come back and it'll be like, "That's your 10th Diet Coke and you've been back here for 8 hours." And I'll just be like, "Get away!"
That good, huh?
So that marriage is over.
So finally, my wife, we went to Tulum for a week.
Did you go see the Mayan stuff?
We went to the Mayan ruins, and we went to these things called cenotes, which are
Mayans were
underground-
canceled. They were canceled.
underground.
Thousands of years ago.
They couldn't take it well.
No.
Anyway, so
They didn't test well either.
things are on the
Mayans?
up. I'll just talk to you. Things are on the uptick. Things are on the uptick. Things are looking
You
up.
can't ask Eddie. He's just continuing to talk, and then he'll weep.
Yes.
So he'll just start weeping at the end of this
So
conversation.
then we need to have the tissues.
Yes, and I did Witches of East End, and did the show
Modern Family.
Backstrom and Modern Family,
Backstrom.
and
And Mind Games.
a show called Mind Games, and
Okay.
So I've been working, but I mostly just want to tell you guys.
It's not my own series or
really
anything.
Good, yeah.
yeah, I had a series. Okay, you guys go.
It was hard for everybody. We all talked about it. It's hard for everybody because you get used to doing a show. The thing that happens is that coming to conventions, you get reminded that the show lives on and people really were affected, especially because we did a family show, and that we were always proud of that. I mean, even though Eddie and I are the only ones who have kids, that in our group.
Well, I have
so
Eddie.
far, you have Eddie. So that was a good thing. Is that the fans remind us how they watched this with their families, and that's a really cool thing. And my kids grew up, as I was doing the show. So I have a son still in, he's got 3 more years of college. So all through high school, that was what was going on for us, and all through the college years of my daughter. But in a way, what's really interesting, take it seriously, that question is, we're actors, so we look for other work, but I've always felt, being the old man of the show, that, and since I was in my 20s, is that if I just concentrated on acting, I would be screwed. Because you're either, first of all, making a living is hard enough as an actor, but being an actor in America, different from almost any other country in the world, is it's very hard to think of yourself as a success unless you're rich and famous, because that is what America demands of you. Nowhere else in the world is an artist not a success. If you make a living at what you do, that's huge. If you can do what you love and you can support yourself doing what you love, that's extraordinary. And we had this conversation.
How much do I leave for that?
Yeah, we had this conversation. we had this conversation before our show started, you and me. And I said to you, this is the curse of it, is that we're about to do a show, but it's going to end, and the feeling is, in America, you know what it is? It's like this. Never happens in Canada. We're Canadians.
Do you remember the car, when we got in the car?
Tell me.
Well, when we were in New York, and it was our first press thing,
Yeah.
and we got into this car, and Eddie was mad because the car was too small, and I was upset because the car was too big. And you're like, Canada, America.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am an asshole after all.
No, you
No,
were like, why
you're
don't we
a
get the
victim.
bigger car? And I was like, this is too much. This is too much. Like,
It
this
was,
is-
being victimized by the attitudes. Like, for example, only in the United States will somebody come up to me, because I'm an old man, so I've been in a lot of different things, and they'll go, oh, man, I'm so sorry, I don't know your name. And they're very apologetic about it. Nowhere else, not in England, not in France, not in Germany, not in Canada. Why? They just go, oh, I see you all the time. I forgot your name, but you're great. I love watching you work. But in the United States, they feel bad for you if they don't know your name.
Jesus, I
Yeah.
But because
never
that
thought of
means,
it that way.
because they feel that if I don't know your name, I'm going to embarrass you, because surely
You're not as
you're
successful
not as successful as somebody whose name I know.
Kim
And-
Kardashian.
And you, but here's the thing, actors get bitten by that flea. And then you start to think of yourself that way.
well, it's never enough, right?
Right.
It's
We
never
also
enough.
That's
don't
why-
share our struggle, and by struggle I mean like the everyday slogging of going in on an audition or getting close to a project and not getting it because you don't get everything you audition for.
No, you're lucky if you get one of the 20.
Right, we only bring you and share with you our successes, which is a wonderful thing to celebrate, but that's a very small percentage of the time that our careers take up.
What's that? There's a brand new show on Netflix about a horse called Horseman.
BoJack Horseman.
BoJack Horseman, which is about a former sitcom star.
Oh, wow.
It's played by Will Arnett, and his best friend is Aaron Paul, and it's about him not wanting. He's very sad. He's on drugs and alcohol, and his show's been canceled. I mean, it's a horse, but it's a very, very funny show, and it's about him not wanting to appear to his fans as sad and as
He's
fucked
a
up as he knows he
horse,
is.
like Mr. Ed type thing?
Yes, that's right. Well, he's not like
It's
a Mr.
animated.
It's animated. They're just
Oh,
people.
oh.
They're people, you know.
So
But
that's
it's
not
very-
a pitch to watch BoJack Horseman.
BoJack Horseman is great. So what we do is we all have projects. We've been doing all kinds of things. Some of which you'll see on the air, and some of which we're trying to sell. In my case, I've been writing for a while. But the real issue that binds us is that we were a family for 5 years, and we get together like this, rarely, only at these cons. In this case, rarely, because Joe's here for the first time in 4 years, which is really great. You know.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I sat in the lobby last
5.
night and just watched. It was
Wait,
crazy.
just wait till like
I heard
Saturday night.
tomorrow
Tonight,
Yeah.
tomorrow night.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So many lightsabers.
I
Lots of
heard
flesh.
I heard nudity is like totally acceptable as long as you use body paint.
Lots of flesh. A lot of bunless chapped
So
O'Horas,
DragonCon has
right?
a free
That's fun.
Really? For reals?
For reals, that's what I was just told on the
Awesome.
way over here. Like you can be topless as long as there's body paint involved and
That's wicked.
I had a question for you guys. How did you feel about the resolution of your characters at the end of the series?
I couldn't have been happier.
That was good.
I got to tap dance and I became caretaker. Yeah, no complaints for me.
I was really happy. I know that we, in regards to the Pete and Micah thing, we stayed away from it for the whole series, and which I loved. You know, we weren't winking at it. You know, we didn't have posters with us like looking. You know, like there was none of that. And then the fact that they realized in the last few episodes, I thought it was a great way to. And there was a part where Joanne and I were talking, and we noticed in the writing that Micah never, as it was written, never came out and actually said to Pete, "I love you." And we kind of thought, we were like, I think it's time. She needs to say,
Yeah.
"Look, I love you," so that they can actually say together. And it was honest and innocent, and Joanne and I both agreed with it, and so I was happy with that resolution.
Yeah, it was a great moment. It was very touching and funny too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we didn't lay into it too hard and make it too much of it. It's just part of life, you know. Which is kind of what the whole show, like, we never laid into the fact that Jinx was gay. He just happened to be gay, which is his life, you know, and or at least that's the way we feel.
Yeah, and it was also that we knew before we went into the last 6 episodes that the show was canceled. We didn't suddenly happen to us while we were shooting.
That was a nice way.
So they gave us 6 episodes, and we'll probably be talking about this all weekend, is the fact that sci-fi in that incarnation has changed now because all the executives tend to also get canceled in a way, is that sci-fi fought really hard in order to keep us on the air. It was difficult for them on a bottom line level because at a certain point the bean counters rule for all of this stuff. And they fought to give us not just 1 episode. So the writers then had 6 episodes. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were going to tie up the show, which meant that the fans were being honored. That was the most important thing, is that the millions of people that watched the show were respected, which is rare. Because normally you go, what the hell? What happened? It's over, it's done, but there's no resolution, you know? And the fans get pissed off. And now, of course, the fans have a much greater say than they ever did because, you know, you guys, and not just you guys, social media, what happens is they're able to talk directly to the people that are making the shows. So the fans felt good about it, and we knew that we all felt good. Jack Kenny, our wonderful showrunner, told us what was going to happen. He kept the mood light. There was really not a angst-ridden 6 episodes. We were touched by it, but the way the warehouse ended was a metaphor for our show ending, and we had to deal with all those emotions as characters. So it was easy to play the resolution of what was going on because that was the mirror that was happening in the warehouse itself. So we all felt really, really great about that. I think it was an amazing experience. You know, it was really good. I don't look at it as canceled. I just see that chapter had to end.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I disagree. No, I don't.
Was there any moment for you guys that when you were filming or an episode that was really funny or memorable or that you look back on and found, oh, that was great?
I guess I was just talking about it the other day when Pete and Micah swapped bodies.
That was great.
I got to do my impersonation of Joanne that I'd been doing behind her back for months.
Not so behind the back. In front of the face. Come on.
So I was like, no, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. I get to do all the shit I've been doing. I get to do it in public for her. And I was like, so I did my Joanne, and she, you know, I was a gorilla. If, you know, Joanne did me, you know, because I'm a bit of an Australopithecus. And I got to do Joanne. So, you know, that was, you know, it just, for me, it was like, it exemplified our relationships.
Yeah.
You know, it was like.
Also, I was like, I watched all your tape and like was so nervous about it in typical, you know, me form. And he just shows up and off the cuff kind of does his business.
Yeah. Well, that kind of, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to go into, you know,
That was a rabbit hole that
I was going to say I kind of tended to, I think I annoyed my castmates at times because I wasn't really into preparation per se. Yeah, I would just show and be like, okay, what are we doing? Oh, okay. And so, you know.
Because you knew that if you prepared, you'd screw up.
Yeah, I mean, Pete was, you know, the line between myself and Pete is, there's really no line. So besides the fact that he saved the world and is incredibly handsome. Otherwise, look, I mean, for me, one particular moment, it was all, there's so many great moments for me that to actually pick just one would be tough. So.
I always think about our audition. Somebody asked me last night what was my top 3 moments on Warehouse 13. And I said, Eddie's and mine audition for Warehouse 13. It's the moment to me that like, the first time we read together.
It definitely set the tone for.
It was like lightning.
And I think you guys have probably heard me tell this story about, you know, I mean, I hadn't worked I had done 4 episodes of Bones where I played a cop for the first time in my career, because I always played the kind of goofy guy next door, the best friend of the lead guy. So I was trying to transition in. I had done these Bones episodes, and then just nothing for like a year and a half. And so you know, I walk in. We're auditioning. There's 6 Petes. There's 6 Micahs. And the director, this guy comes out that was playing Pete. The director goes, "Hey, come here." He puts his arm around him and walks him down the hall. And I was like, "That's it. It's him. That's the." So I went nuts, and I was talking about my babies
He was
and the
so
birds
sweaty.
and the flying
He got
in and
really
regurgitating
sweaty.
the worm. And I was like, I got no fucking worm. And meanwhile, I don't know any of these people. They're fucking sitting there, you know, looking at me. And Joanne was just like, dude. And to this day, she calls me dude. To this day, she was like, dude, come here. And you know, she was like sitting like this in her chair. She was like, dude, come here. Why? What's wrong? Why are you saying that? It's not. And just then they were like, okay, Miss Kelly, Eddie, you guys are up next. And she looked at me and was like, and I was like, oh.
It's not over.
So then we went in and we were
Never over till it's over.
we're going through our audition, and Micah calls Pete a showboat in the pilot where we're protecting the president and the Bloodstone, and Joanne called me a showbot instead of a showboat. And so I started doing, I was like,
The
showbot, and then I did a hee Michael Jackson kick. And she was like,
Punched him
because
because
she
I was
was
like, get
"You're-
back on
what are you
book,
doing?
man. Like,
This isn't part of the
don't
thing.
screw up my
And
audition.
so she punched me, and I was like, ow! And then, you know, like I looked over at Tom Lieber, and he was just looking at me. Tom was one of our execs. He's like, where did you come with that? How did you get in here? Who are you? And we walked out, and Mark Stern was like, that's the show right there.
That's Pete and Micah.
And you know, it was like the biggest fear for an actor is
It's
to make
to
a
screw
mistake
up.
in the room. And because of that, we kind of ended up getting the job, so.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
I've heard this story maybe 150 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've heard all of Eddie's stories.
So this guy goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, what's wrong? He's like, it's not me, it's my wife. What's wrong with your wife? She's got an incredibly large vagina.
Don't.
No.
Don't.
Eddie,
Don't.
Stop now.
Don't.
Stop now.
I'm going to add on to the rest of your question about memorable episodes. I did not audition with anyone, but for me, I will still never forget just my very first day on set, where I met everyone, and I swear to God, and Saul just like extended his wing and put me right under there and got to know me, and we shot, you know, not only my first, you know, scene on the job, but my first scene in the episode. And Claudia was new to me, and I was learning about this character and also this family that I was stepping into, and it was really exciting.
Episode 3.
4.
Four.
Oh.
We went to
Sorry.
Comic-Con right after we shot it, right?
Well, once we finished.
Surgic
First
directed
season.
First
it.
season, we already.
Yeah, that's right.
Surgic
finished-
directed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Claudia.
Yeah.
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 It was
But
fun.
3 after our pilot.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
That was actually the episode for me when we introduced Claudia, and I got to see what Allison was bringing to the show. And I was like, wow, that's really good. And this is really interesting. For me, that's when I kind of bought into the show. Right?
Well, also because Saul needed.
Yeah, I would have ended up talking to myself.
So like Michael Emerson on Person of Interest, just like talking to
To
a
yourself.
screen, like the whole.
It's really a drag, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how Jack got the job, did you know that?
I
That
didn't
was
know
his.
Jack, in order to get the job of being a showrunner, because after the pilot, the person who was the showrunner stepped aside.
It was David Simpkins.
Yeah,
who
who
was
continued to
lovely.
work on the show, but they needed a new showrunner, and Jack was auditioning for the job, and one of the things he said was, to get it, he already had a credibility because he'd written so
Book of
many
Daniel.
episodes, yeah, and a lot of sitcoms and all kinds of things. But he was it's a very competitive world. And he said, look, I don't know anything about sci-fi and all this fantasy, but I'm sure you'll find a lot of people who will. What I know about, and I watched your pilot, is that if you don't create a family here, there is not going to be a show that's going to be worth watching. So what I do know about is how to create a family. As far as the sci-fi stuff, and that can all be figured out. fantasy, what the artifacts do, what the magic is, that can be figured out, or we'll hire people who are really better than me about it, but I know how to create a family. And the other thing is you need to give Artie a sorcerer's apprentice, otherwise the guy's gonna be talking to himself. So he pitched that in the room, and they understood that, and he was the only one who did, said, you've gotta have a fourth regular on the show. And he pitched the idea of having a sorcerer's apprentice, and that's how it happened. And it just turned out that he already knew you.
Yeah, we'd worked together when I was 13 on a pilot.
So that was about 5 years before you started. You were 18 when you started?
Yeah.
I was actually doing this show called Roommates, and my buddy who was running the show called me. He's like, "Hey man, come do this. I got a 4-story arc for you on this show, Roommates, and Jack Kenny's going to be directing." And I was like, "Jack," because Jack was a co-EP on my first show ever in 1998, which was a sitcom on Fox, and I always liked Jack a lot, and I was like, I love Jack, so I started doing these episodes with Jack, and one day I showed up to work, and in the Hollywood Reporter, I was like, holy shit, my show got picked up. My show, Warehouse 13, got picked up.
You learned that? You learned that from the Hollywood Reporter?
Yeah.
Nobody called him. Nobody called him.
I was like,
He was calling me like every day to
Oh
see
my
if
God.
he called me like every
Oh my
day
God.
to see
They-
if I'd
they-
heard
they-
anything.
oh,
I was
they-
like, don't call me
Oh my
again,
God.
you weirdo.
They made us wait 2 weeks after we tested. So every time the phone would ring when I was at my house, I had PTSD from every time the phone rang. Like, here's the call. This is it. Yes. Huh, Mom? And so anyway, so Jack was like, what? What's this? What's this show? And I was like, yeah, Warehouse 13 on Sci-Fi. And he was like, isn't David Simpkins running that show? I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, I worked with him on Book of Daniel. He goes, will you talk to David and see if I can get a meeting over there? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I called David. I'm like, hey, Jack Kenny would like to see if he could come in for a meeting. And David's like, sure. So I get a call like 2 days later from Jack, and he goes, guess what? I'm your new boss. And I was like, what? And he was like, I'm the EP on your show.
Wow.
Very incestuous world.
Yeah. I was like,
Strange, yeah.
what about David? And
Okay.
we talked about something else.
Oh, we
What types
did.
of things are you guys a fan of?
I'm a huge theater geek, and I love books. I'm a huge book nerd. I read maybe 3 books a week, so that's how I spend the majority of my time.
Nothing. I
What?
didn't do anything. I didn't make a face. I'll never forget. We were working, and we were in the room, and we had our chairs that we sit in, and somebody was like, Eddie, I need to move your chair. Joanne is over reading a book, and she's sitting there and she's reading. I need to move your chair. Is this your book? And I go, yeah, that's my book. And he's like, oh, you read? And I go, yeah. And Joanne just goes. and I caught her and I go, what was that? What the hell was that? I saw that look. Why are you doing that?
Because I saw you read like 3 books in 3 years.
I read.
So you're basically just beating Micah in
Yes.
the real world as well.
Yes.
They wrote for that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm a fan
yeah,
of,
yeah.
taking my story back.
Well played.
But yeah, I want to go meet Patrick Stewart today. I saw him on stage in the fall, so I'm excited. That's what and also football. I love football.
Oh, did you see Manziel last night?
No, what was
Watch?
going on?
No.
Oh, the Browns played last night.
Yeah.
I played on the Browns. Well, Johnny Manziel, he's the big. Well, this room may not know.
I know.
But anyway, football. Cool.
The only thing I know about football is I played Art Modell. So
That's
I had to-
right,
So I had
that's
to deal
right.
with, yeah. But I don't know anything about football.
I just like it when they hit each other.
Apparently,
Yeah.
really good for kids, that stuff.
So
I
that's
like
Helmets are great.
the Incredible Hulk. I like Godzilla. I like Great White Sharks.
Do you?
He's
Show me
gonna
how
go
much you
shark diving.
like. Oh.
There you
We're
go.
going to Australia.
Next
We're
week?
actually going to Australia next week, and I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks. I'm hopefully
You're gonna do it.
Get in the cage with the great white on the other side of the cage. Hopefully.
And he's still acting.
No, No,
What
he went
happened?
to Australia.
What happened?
And,
Apparently he's playing a zombie in Walking Dead. He's got one arm and half a
he's
face.
the corpse in Sharknado
Yes,
7.
yes. He fought for that role.
I'm a fan of musicals and of anything David Lynch and of rock and roll music.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a Twin Peaks Tumblr.
Yes, I stopped.
What does that mean?
I don't update it anymore. I started a blog. When I started watching Twin Peaks for the first time and was so mesmerized by it, I decided to take screen captures of every time a character cries, which is about 4 times an episode. And so my blog is called People Crying on Twin Peaks, and it's usually like Ray Wise, like
We were talking about Twin Peaks and you last night.
oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because my son Sam followed suit. He's 19. He watched all of it, binge watched David Lynch. Then he started to watch David Lynch's shorts. He's made a number of short films, and then found out that once Eraserhead happened, it was like a very strange coincidence of who saw it, because it was almost like a student film and was never going to get released. And the person who saw it happened to be the person who was instrumental in getting David Lynch the job of directing Elephant Man, which was up for 15 Oscars in 1980 or whatever it was. I mean, think about how odd it was that a guy makes the weirdest student-like
Never happened to
film,
me.
like a Eraserhead, which ended up in midnight screenings. And then Mel Brooks, who seemed to own the rights to the books that Elephant Man was made of, and David Lynch, I can't do a David Lynch imitation, you can do. He said, how do you talk? How does he talk? I'll copy you. He talked like he's very big.
1, 2, 3, go.
That's it.
Where's the funny?
that's from Louis C.K. So he said,
Make me laugh.
all right, well, see ya later. Producer is going to see Eraserhead to see whether or not I can direct a big Hollywood movie. See ya. And was David Lynch's attitude. Bye. I'll never see you again. And he was sitting out there waiting.
Taxi.
So Mel Brooks is watching Eraserhead, and he's sitting out there apparently. And then about 10 minutes into the movie, Mel Brooks runs out and goes, "You're a madman. I love you. You're in." You know, that's what happened.
That's cool. Man.
Yeah, and that's how he ended up directing. No, when does that happen? I mean, I don't know how that. It's such a rare thing. To
I
have.
like that story.
Yeah. So Sam, my son Sam, is also a fan of David Lynch now, and Pinter, and he's a theater nut because I am an owner. My wife is. But we bonded over that. I'm a theater maniac too, and that's how I
I've
started.
seen plays.
I saw the
I think
first
you
play
saw
with, we all
the
saw
first
it.
play
his
you
first
All
ever
play.
the
saw.
plays I've ever seen were with the two that
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah. That was shocking to me, but not anymore.
And I had to pee. Remember, I had to pee for the
I wouldn't
whole-
let you.
Huh?
I wouldn't let you.
Yeah.
We
saw
went to
the
see
greatest-
an amazing thing in London. I dragged him to see.
It wasn't a drag. I was excited. to
I
watch
had
it.
bought tickets for you, and you didn't come to the one that I invited you to. You decided to go and see.
I was with young Allison that night.
What did you?
In-
What did
They
you?
in
went
the UK, in the
sightseeing.
UK.
I saw Fiona Byrne do Mother Courage.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I
No,
dragged
Fiona
him.
Shaw.
I dragged him. Fiona Shaw. I dragged him to see Arturo Ui, an amazing.
Oh,
version
which
of
he loved.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
fuck,
yeah.
You told
it was
me later.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the
Sneaky
best
smart.
part is like afterwards, Saul went up and he's like, "Listen,
I went
what's
to
the
the-
actor's name?"
yeah. Oh, it's you asked me names. I'm really
And stuff.
bad with names
And stuff.
and stuff.
But mostly names.
But mostly names. I'm terrible with names. I'm glad to do. It's
So that the actor Saul went up to the
It's a dressing room.
to the booth and was like, "Could you send this note back to?" We just thought he was fantastic, and we had met at a thing that I did because Saul had his play was.
I'd written a play that was on in London, and I was.
Terrible advice.
And I was,
It's great.
I thought I had met this actor there, and it turns out that I was completely wrong. And I said, we met backstage, I was introduced to you by the actress who's in my play, I would love to meet you. And he was so gracious, and he said, oh, by the way, after the whole thing was over, he said, yes, and by the way, I think you may be mistaken, I didn't actually see your play. I'm sure it was very good.
And we're in his dressing room, which is like, I mean, we're literally sitting in there like that. I mean, it couldn't have been more intimate.
Never
And this
complain
guy,
about your trailer.
Yeah.
and this guy was
So
so. I
gracious.
mean, you know, he was like, would you like to lie on my cot? You know?
It's because you look tired. You're especially. It's a long play.
And we sat in there for an hour talking to this guy, and then when we walked out, the door closed, and Saul goes, "I've never met the man." I've never met the man.
But I have now. Yeah, no, it was a special thing.
Yeah.
It was also really cool to bring you to theater because
Yeah.
you like movies and you love all of that stuff. But for some reason, that didn't happen to you even in college, right?
No,
You were
I mean,
wrestling?
I was a
You were an athlete.
jock
Yeah.
wrestler,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
drinking beer out of a shoe,
Yeah.
I've drank beer out of the shoe.
a man's shoe.
But I love that stuff too. I mean, I'll watch a lot of different things on TV. I love television. It really gets me when I meet people who go, "You're on a television show," and I go, "Yeah," and they go, "Yeah, I don't really watch that much TV."
Yeah.
Oh, good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. We
You
don't
must
even
be-
have a TV in the house.
Oh,
That's
you-
my favorite.
excellent.
We don't even have a TV.
Oh, great! Thank you for
Yeah.
telling me
Yes,
because
yes.
now I think so highly of you.
Yes, thank
You're
you for coming
obviously
over.
very sophisticated, intellectual,
Yes,
and
yes.
rude.
Yeah.
And
But
a
let me
snob.
guess. You're gluten free.
Yeah. So that's.
I have a question. The artifacts and props are just amazing on Warehouse 13.
They are.
They were. And did any of them piggyback to one of your homes?
They did. Especially Eddie's home.
Yes.
Well,
Eddie pilfered over the years
Pretty much
so
everything.
much.
I was like, this might be my one shot.
did you take something? Am I the only one who didn't get anything?
I took the chairs from the patio because I
Did
didn't
you?
have any patio furniture.
The very practical Newfoundland girl.
Pretty good.
Very, very
smart.
good.
They're great, those Muskoka chairs
Yeah,
were
they're really,
comfortable.
really
They're
good.
like big. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the big
Nice,
black
yeah.
ones on the patio.
How'd you take them?
I think I had
You
some.
It's
finagled
very
the driver?
I've
You got a truck?
Back of the
I think I
van,
had
You were
Jason
fitting it in.
Pulley, our friend, go get them.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
that's how you did it.
In his truck.
You got him. That's how she did it.
Okay.
The boyfriend can get the chairs.
I always
I
say
got the
everything's
boyfriend
up
and the
here.
chairs.
I didn't need anything from the show.
I
Not
felt the
really.
same thing.
I didn't want anything physical around. I don't know. It's
Oh, well,
all
what
in
happened to me
here.
was like, that's where I was at, and that whole attitude was it's all here and here, and then I thought, yeah, but there's some shit I'd like. And I went, well, you know.
I thought
went to
about the
producer-
suit of armor briefly, but it turned out it was rented.
Well, I went to.
So we didn't own it.
Okay, well, here's an even worse reason for not getting something. So I said, look, I sat in this office, in Artie's office, which I adore, and I love this keyboard. I mean, it's a steampunk keyboard. And then I got this strange expression on Mark Winemaker, our producer's
Did
face.
he take the
No,
keyboard?
no. He went, you know, NBC Universal has come here. I said, the entire corporation? Well, no, the people from NBC Universal came to tag items. Yeah, to put in their warehouse. And that was tagged, and my attitude was, so you can't have it. And it was like, okay, I was here for 5 years in front of that, and because
And they get to
tagged-
walk in.
And so the only way would have been for me to just take it, and then that's what he kind of was suggesting to me, is that no one's going to come after me with, with police if I just took it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it. And it was gone. Because remember they had that, it was gone because the end of the show, they redressed
The wrap out was so weird.
I went into the office, and it was a new office because we were supposed to be years later, and all that stuff was in NBC's
It's gone.
warehouse. Yeah, gone. So I did get on my birthday, we were shooting on my birthday, which was July 2nd, and Jack stopped a take, and in the middle of a take, he handed me a picture, and in the picture was a drawing, an early drawing, beautiful drawing that our designer, Branko Dakotas, had drawn of Artie's office. So even better than having an artifact, I had this beautiful designer's drawing, a rendering of what Artie's office should look like. So I have that, and that was a gift from Jack and everybody, and that's really meant a lot to me, and that brings back more memories, I think, than any artifact would. Because then he's been selling all his artifacts.
Not yet. I'm waiting.
One more year without the right audition, and Eddie's starting to.
I got the Tesla rifle there was only one of them made, and it was from
That's when we
arguably
saw Jinx
one of
dead.
my favorite episodes. You know, I thought it was just the most
Moving episode, yeah.
moving episodes of, you know, Claudia's response to the death of Jinx and that whole thing. It was really, I mean, we had a bunch of people over to the house to watch that episode, and everyone was crying. I mean, everybody was looking around like, going, okay, that was weird.
Yeah, 'cause
Didn't
it shows
expect
mostly
that.
laughs,
Didn't
you know.
expect that.
But early on, you know, Jack came to me at the beginning of that season and said, listen, I've got to take Claudia away from you. And I said, what do you mean? He says, you've had a father-daughter relationship with her and it's been really wonderful. But in order, thing that I'm not sure if I'm going to tell the rest of the cast about, especially Eddie will tweet it immediately, is that I've got to kill Aaron's character off at the end of this season. I'm pretty sure I'm going to bring him back. I'm not sure how. But in order for that to be a moving thing for this family, I have got to create a brother-sister relationship between him and Claudia. I got to, in order to do that, I have to remove her from you. You know? Did I say something that I shouldn't have said?
We were talking about when Aaron's coming.
Oh, he's coming Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's working. He's the only one who's doing a new series, right?
Yeah, he
That
does.
son of a bitch is coming.
No, he deserves it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, his brother, are you going to be able to tell them apart? He's coming too.
I saw his
Yeah.
brother at Comic-Con and I could not speak to him. Couldn't do it. It was too weird. Way too weird.
Because his exact twin, right?
Yeah. Jesse looked over and he was like, "Isn't that Aaron?" And I went, "No, that's Sean. No, it's evil. We can't do this."
Bizarro Aaron.
Oh yeah, no, I
Yeah,
can't.
okay.
We can never meet.
Yeah, it's strange, huh?
It's very weird. I'm friends with other
They got
twins. It's just that
married.
I know it's so exciting.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
the photos
got
are so
married to
gorgeous.
Zoe.
Yeah.
We're unfortunately out of time.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you.
Thank you.